They say some places never forget what happened there. The walls hold whispers. The floors echo footsteps that no longer belong to the living. And sometimes, if you stay too long, those places remember you. Ravenswood Orphanage had been closed for over 60 years. It was built in 1891 on the edge of the cliffs outside Harrow's Field, a fog-choked village that doesn't even show up on most maps anymore. Ravenswood was meant to be a place of refuge, a home for children left behind by war, disease, poverty. But what happened behind its wrought iron gates was something else entirely. Locals called it the Hollow House, not because it was empty, because it hollowed the children who entered. Miss Esther was the matron. For 40 years, never married, never seen outside the gates. The butcher swore she never aged a day in all the years he delivered meat. Her grey dress was always spotless. Her shoes always shined. Her face pale and smooth like wax. She spoke little, but when she did, her voice was honey-sweet, unnerving in its calmness, like a bedtime lullaby hummed at a funeral. The children feared her. They said she walked the halls barefoot at night, not with footsteps, but with the faint scratch of nails dragging against the walls. Behind the orphanage's heavy doors, she ruled with something colder than cruelty. Esther ran her own doctrine, a ritualistic code. Children who disobeyed were locked in the cellar for hours, sometimes days. The floor was stone. The walls bled moisture. "Purvey," said the air itself, whispered in that place. Other punishments were worse. Some were forced to kneel in raw rice until their knees bled. Some were made to hold their breath while submerged in icy water. Some were made to sit in a pitch-black closet surrounded by dolls with no eye. And if they cried, they were punished again. Esther said crying called the thing in the dark. But those were just the punishments people knew about. In the East Wing, in a room no one else was allowed to enter, Miss Esther kept what she called the choir. These were the quietest children, the ones who had broken under her hand, the ones she'd starved of touch and warmth. Children who were lashed, not just with switches, but with words and long nights alone. She had a ritual. On Sunday nights, after sundown, Esther would dress in a red velvet robe stitched with human hair and descend to the Red Room. The choir would follow, barefoot, silent, heads bowed. She'd burn poppy seeds and the bones of birds in a blackened iron bowl, chanting in a tongue no child understood. The walls of the Red Room were lined with mirrors turned to face inward, reflecting nothing but darkness. She made the children kneel in a ring of ash, and one by one, she'd press her thumb to their foreheads, whispering, "Empty your voice, fill the silence, become worthy." One boy, Micah, began convulsing violently during one of these rites. Blood poured from his ears, and his tongue lolled out of his mouth, black as rot. Esther called it a blessed offering. Sometimes the children would emerge with dried blood under their noses. Sometimes they didn't come back at all. She said silence was devotion. She said obedience was salvation. Sometimes they came back, changed, eyes too wide, smiles too still, mouths moving but no sound escaping. No one knows exactly how many children stayed in Ravenswood. Records were lost in a fire, or so they say, by the graveyard behind the property. 37 small headstones, no last names, no birthday, just first names and a year they died. Most of them were between the ages of 6 and 10, and most of them died in the same year, 1947. That was the year the silence began. The town doctor, Dr. Harland, made regular visits to check on the children. He kept notes, neatly bound, now stored in the Harrisfield Historical Society. In July of 1947, he wrote something chilling. 7 children have gone mute. No sign of trauma. No physical explanation. When prompted, they open their mouths as if to speak, but no sound comes. Their throats are unmarked. Their eyes are wrong. Weeks later, all but 3 children now refuse to speak. They stare for hours at nothing, bar one boy. Elijah tore out his own tongue with a spoon. Miss Esther said he was possessed by silence. That's what she called it. Possessed by silence. The spoon was found twisted in his hand. Blood pooled at his feet. Teeth broken from biting down. His eyes rolled back, lids fluttering like he was watching something behind them. Dr. Harland reported his concerns to the local clergy. Father Malcolm visited the orphanage on a dark, silent night with something evil in the air. He was never seen again. The priest's cassock was found folded on the edge of the forest behind the property. Cross, broken in half and scorched black. Embedded in the tree above it were 5 deep claw marks, too large for any animal in those woods, too cruel for anything Mother Nature could possibly be capable of. Miss Esther told investigators he had chosen solitude. By November, the orphanage closed its doors. The building remained locked and untouched for decades, until 2009, when a documentary crew got permission to film a historical piece on the orphanage. They stayed inside for one night. Only one of them, sound tech Lisa Green, made it out. She doesn't speak anymore. She just stares. The footage was never released, but according to the police report, fragments of the tape were found near the front door. Here's what they showed. Children's laughter echoing through the halls. Light, melodic, but layered with something off. Like the laughter was being looped or mimicked by someone who didn't understand joy. A hallway where the lights flicker in a slow, rhythmic pattern, as if breathing. The shadows stretched and recoiled like they were alive. Room with 37 dolls hanging from the ceiling by a red thread, spinning slowly. Their faces were all painted over in black, their mouths sewn shut with hair. A woman's voice whispering, "Do you hear them praying?" But the sound was reversed, playing backwards. Guinea up, met Araye, war, ad, and in the very last frame, a single child in a grey uniform, standing in the corner. His face blurred, his mouth open, not screaming, not speaking, just open. His lips moved, but nothing came out. Miss Esther had told the staff he was mute from birth, but his file, which mysteriously vanished, told a different story. To die. It said he was admitted at age 6, after his mother vanished in the woods. The boy had been found barefoot, eyes wide, standing in a ring of dead birds. B hadn't spoken since the night he said he heard a bell ringing inside the tree. A bell no one else heard. 2, the doctor wrote. Child reports the bell comes from beneath the ground. When he hears it, he feels something rise up his spine. Claims the bell told him to be quiet forever. Another page, smudged with something reddish, described how the boy would draw circles over and over again. Always 13 rings. Inside each circle, a black figure with no face. In the years after, locals swore the building still echoed with footsteps. That sometimes, late at night, the sound of a bell tolling, faint and metallic, could be heard from beneath the floorboards. A group of ghost hunters tried to spend the night in 2015. Their live feed cut out 3:13 a.m. The last thing heard before the static was a child's voice whispering. She's still here. Befounded team the next morning, all sitting at the long dining table, silent, unblinking, blood crusted in their ears. One had carved the word hush into the wall with his fingernails, down to the bone, pieces of nail embedded in the plaster. Another had her mouth sewn shut with fishing wire, still wet. It had been threaded through from inside her cheeks, like the stitching had come from within. The cameraman's eyes had been gouged out, but there was no sign of struggle. He sat with a peaceful smile, still gripping the tripod. A recording on the camera showed only static. Then, just before cutting out, the faint sound of a bell tolling 13 times, slow and hollow. Paranormal investigators later reported that the dining room's air was laced with an iron-heavy presence, and a low, resonating hum could still be heard under the floorboards. No source was ever found. Lisa Green was found locked in the cellar, curled in the corner, her fingernails broken from scratching at the stone floor. On the wall, she had written one phrase again and again. I hear her walking. She has not spoken a word since. When shown photographs of the other crew members, she turns away. When asked about the bell, she trembles violently. The building has been condemned, but the graveyard remains. Locals leave offerings, small toys, marbles, candy. None of it stayed. It's always gone the next morning. Some say the children come out at night, bet that they gather at the edge of the trees, mouths open, waiting, listening for the bell. So if you ever hear it, soft, distant, like it's ringing from inside your walls, don't answer it. Don't speak, because the children of Ravenswood are still looking for someone to join them in the silence